Well, hello everyone. We are having a pretty exciting show today. We are visiting with John Cotner with Cotner Building Company, continuing our builder series here. If you're looking for homes in the Boise, Idaho area, or even up north, we'll talk with John a little bit about that. But this series is just introducing the builders, things to consider as you engage with them, how to get in contact, some of the things that they're working on, and important things to know. So with that, I'll introduce the gentleman here. How you doing today, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, John. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Well, we go back a long way, Jerod, so it's kind of fun to connect again.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I was thinking it's got to be the better part of a couple decades, what, 18, 17, 18 years, maybe even more. But
It was, yeah, around that time when the economy did its thing back in the late 2000s is about when you and I got connected.
yeah, yeah. So I'd love to watch your progress over the years. It's just been amazing, and I'm excited. We're excited to share with our audience about what you've got going on. So awesome.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thanks for having me, and I'll see what kind of knowledge I can espouse.
Excellent. Well, let me do just a couple of quick housekeeping items here, real quick. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jerod Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is in collaboration with Chase. We've been developing the perfect home buying process for over 20 years now. Just a lot of tools, resources, points of reference, some of the standard common things that you would think about in the way of home search efforts. But we also offer, podcast series to help educate you, to answer any questions that you may have. We even share inside kind of secrets that we feel that you should know about to kind of be aware of or lean into. In collaboration now with Chase, we're offering up to $1,000, 500 on either side, the lending and the realtor side, for up to $500 on your appraisal and up to $500 on your home inspection to keep your costs down and a sense of confidence about the purchase. So feel free to reach out to us in regards to the no obligation consultation and just see how we can help. But with that, I'll bring the gentleman back on. I've got just a brief outlay here, John, but you can feel free to kind of share in whatever manner typically works best for you. But if you'd like, just a little bit of backstory of your time here in Idaho, because that's usually pretty relevant for folks that are looking for builders, and then a little bit of backstory how you got into building.
Oh, that's great. I've lived in Idaho for going on 36 years. I was in the military before that. And while I was in the military, my parents had actually relocated to Idaho because my dad grew up on a dairy farm originally here. And so 1990, I found myself on their doorstep looking for a place to live. A 21-year-old, just served 4 years in the military and had my GI Bill in hand and just wanted to go back to college and do a little work and find my way. So fast forward to 1998, I had just been married for 2 years, and my father-in-law from California, he was a builder and developer. He said, "Well, what are you going to do with that business degree?" And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, I'd love to do something in housing, just not sure." And he said, "Well, let's get you started on building some houses." And so I formed my company in March of 1998. So I'm coming up on the end of my 28th year.
That's
Coming up here this,
amazing.
yeah.
Been a little bit of a roller coaster.
We've seen a lot change in those almost 29 years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you that don't know, Chase and his family were in the flooring business all during this the last couple of decades here. So his smirk is because it hits a little close to home as well, right, Chase?
It does. We've seen a lot, right, John? I mean, we had a little bit of a boom 80s, 90s, but nothing like what we've seen the last 20 years, right? So I mean, the changes here have just been pretty incredible.
Well, when I got into it, I remember building my first house in 1998, thinking at the time, oh, I'm so far behind the ball. All these other builders have already established reputations. I'm never going to make anything of myself. And I had no idea that, Idaho would go through so many changes that it has over the last 28, almost 29 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So
Been
you
fun to
mentioned
watch.
you mentioned your father-in-law, uh, your family business, correct, John?
Well, not necessarily. He was my first financial backer and got me taught. He likes to tell all of his buddies that he taught me everything I know,
Gotcha.
and I'll give him credit. He's probably not that far off,
But your
but
wife?
he got me into it. And my wife, she was our interior designer. She still runs my office. For the first 25 years, she did all the interior design work, meeting with the clients, picking all the interior furnishings out, stuff like that. So yes, her and I do it together right now, and well, we have since the very beginning. Our very first office was actually our baby room. So we had a little two-bedroom house over in Boise, and we had one bedroom for us, and then the other bedroom had my desk and also the crib in it.
Yeah. Well,
Love
I'll tell
that.
you what, compliments to your wife because when I first met you, it was at your homes and they definitely stood out from the crowd. It was, your product's been very impressive since the jump. So kudos to her and you.
Well, I appreciate that. She kind of grew up with it as well. It was the same relationship between her parents. Her dad was a builder, and her mom did the interior decorating.
Oh,
So
there you go. Perfect. So it's
I'm,
comfortable then.
I'm a little
yeah.
curious, John. Do you remember what your first house, the first house you built, sold for?
It's funny. I was just thinking of this today, and I'm almost positive. I would have to look it up for sure, but I think it was $132,500 for a 1,600 square foot, three-bedroom, two-bath with a three-car garage.
Golly,
That's
miss
amazing.
those days.
Yeah, that was that was a long time ago.
hmm
So over the years, John, everybody kind of develops a niche. What would you say Cotner Building Companies, and I know it's been a lot of different transformation over the years, and if you want to describe a couple of those, feel free. But and
Mhm.
then where do you land
Sure.
today, typically?
We are for sure a custom home designer and builder. At our peak for many years, we were building 20 to 30 houses a year. Um, but anymore, we're in that higher price point range. So we do maybe 3 to 5 a year now. Um, talking about niches, from 1998 to 2026, there has been a lot of change and a lot of different needs. Uh, we were all around back in 2007, 2008 when the economy just completely crashed. That was when I really felt like I earned my money paying for a business degree, because I had to do a whole analysis on my business and look at the overall market and try to make a determination. How am I going to keep money on my table? How am I going to keep building when there's no building to happen out there? And what I found was at that time, the market really catered to the baby boomer generation, but specifically handicap accessibility. And
Mm,
so I went and got certified as what was called back then an aging in place specialist. So I got certified with that. I got registered through the VA as a VA certified registered builder. And I started building houses for veterans. I would start designing spec homes that were smaller footprint, but completely handicap accessible. And I couldn't believe it where when no one was building houses, I had clients coming to me and we had houses going the entire time. So we weren't building 20 to 30 a year like I had been before that, but we kept going. We were able to meet our obligations. I had a subdivision in the ground at that time, and I had certain obligations to the bank that I had to make payments on for that dirt. And so
Yeah.
we started building these handicap accessible houses, and I literally would sell them for whatever my costs were into the
Oh, wow.
house just so I could make the dirt payment to the bank.
Wow.
And we did that for 4 years. For four
Wow.
years, we paid our bills, but never really had anything to put in our own pockets.
Wow. Did you have a question, Chase, or
How,
comment?
yeah, I'm just curious, how long did it take you to, like, from the time, because it was like a light shutting off back then, right? Like
Yeah.
it was just one day there was nobody had any business. How long did it take you to make that adjustment and get back up and running in a direction?
Very good question. I remember the hardest year was 2007.
Mm,
2007 is when everything shut down. So,
right.
for instance, this subdivision that I had, I bought the property in 2005. 2006, we developed the property, so put in all the infrastructure, and I had a development loan from a bank. 2007, we built our first row of houses in this subdivision, and that's the year that everything tanked. So
Yeah.
here I had all these houses. The other builders that were in there with me, there was five of us builders total. Four of them went bankrupt, and I was the only one left standing. And I had a full subdivision and uh, homes that I had to sell. So I had two full-time superintendents at the time. In June, my one superintendent found another job up in Alaska and was like, "Hey, I'm out of here." So he left, which was great for me. I didn't have to lay him off. But then my other one, it was I think it was the end of August or beginning of September when I had to lay him off. And that's when it started really hitting me that I've got to really refocus on this. So I think it was probably that fall I went through the full analysis and adjustment and trying to figure out coming into the following year. I went and met with the bank that I had my construction loan with, the development loan, and
Hmm.
worked out a plan. Hey, starting at the beginning of the year, here's what I'm going to do. And they worked with me, and we just started working together to start building these handicap accessible houses. And it kept the payments going to pay off that dirt and kept houses selling. So I remember people always saying, "Why are you building when no one else is?" Well, what they didn't realize is I wasn't making any money doing
Yeah.
it, but I was keeping my core subcontractors, um, keeping them in business, keeping them afloat. I was meeting my obligation to the bank, and it was a long term. I was looking at the long term viability of I have to do this for my namesake. I'm still building my name. I was less than 10 years into the business. My name was going to be everything. And so I just had to do it for the long term aspect of it.
Man, I have to say kudos, because, like, being in and around that industry during that time. I was an appraiser at that point in time, right? I think I closed my business in 11 or 12.
Mm.
Um, like, the fact that you as a builder stayed open, didn't reorganize, rename, filed bankrupt, like, because we saw that a lot too, right? Filed bankruptcy,
Oh yeah.
reorganizing, renaming,
Mhm.
starting over. Like, that says a lot for you and your name and your integrity and everything about you, because that was not an easy time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was
Well,
for you.
again, I'll blame some of this on my father-in-law because he was advising me the whole time.
Yeah.
He was a partner with me on the development, and
Mm,
he just said, if there's one thing I can tell you is you have to maintain your integrity. Your name is everything. So no
mm,
matter what we have to do, you are not handing the keys back to that subdivision. At the time, the bank that I was working with, they had 8 development loans on subdivisions. 7 of them went bankrupt and came back onto them. I was the only one that met my full obligation back then. But I'll tell you, we lived under a lot of stress during that time. But at
I
least
bet.
I was able to sleep at night. I was able to keep my head held high, knowing that this is all going to turn around and I'll be better for it in the long run.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. Yeah, because it couldn't have been easy for your father-in-law either, right? Because Idaho wasn't in a bubble on its own. Everybody was going through the same thing. So if he's doing that in California, he probably had other obligations that were stressing him as well, right? So
Oh, there's no question. No
Yeah.
question. So that was valuable learning experience. And I would say that that time period in my career is probably the time that taught me the most, that really
Mm,
formed me most as a business owner and as someone who wants to operate on high integrity. That was probably my one time period of high learning experience.
Character
yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Character building. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to do that again if I don't have to.
With
Well,
you.
you gotta, in those difficult times, you gotta take all those lessons at once so you don't have to go through it again.
Hmm.
That's
Sounds like
that's the hope.
sounds like you leaned into them and took away, if not all of them, certainly the majority of them. So yes, definitely kudos to you on
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
just to give folks some insight, we have done episodes in the past, kind of the differentiation between, kind of your cookie cutter, straightforward, predefined floor plan specs, and then semi-custom, which is a slight variation on that, and then just full custom. I think you said it earlier. You're just doing uh, ground level, scratch, custom building, whatever you'd like to have built
Mhm.
these days.
Yes, yeah, we work with a lot of clients to capture their vision for what they want for a house, and we walk them through the entire process.
Do
The
you, do you do you do any spec building at this point in time, or to have something just to show, or is it all custom from pre-sold?
No, we do spec building as well. You definitely still have to have product out there to be able to show people. So
Gotcha.
I actually have two different subdivisions currently right now that we keep inventory in. One of them is called Lone Star Ranch. It's in Canyon County. They have 1 acre lots. I do have a builder team in there, but we do custom building and yeah, that house right there in particular, that's our most recent custom build that we
Mm,
just finished out in Lone Star Ranch. So we sat down with these people. They gave us a vision for what they wanted. We designed the whole thing. We walked them through all the interior decorating, the designing, and then built it for them. It was a turnkey from the very beginning.
Beautiful.
mm, yeah, very.
So that is one subdivision, Lone Star Ranch, 1 acre lots. We do a lot of this type. I mean, not necessarily that style, but we do a lot of this type of quality of homes out there. And then I have another subdivision in Middleton called, and I don't have any pictures
Oh, okay.
on in there of this one, but it's Hawkview Estates. It's 2 acre lots, and we're actually exploring the barn dominium market out there. So we have a couple different barn dominiums up right now that people can tour through, and then we have a couple customs that we're working on for some clients out there right now as well. So this is just some product that we have built throughout the years here. We just like to show people that we can capture many different styles. Everybody has their own unique style and their own unique taste. We like to have the right team in place to be able to capture their vision and to make their vision come to fruition. So
Are you seeing a pretty
But
dramatic shift in style from people relocating into the area? And you're like, wow, that's not something we've seen much of in Idaho. And do you have any examples of that, maybe?
you always see trends. Trends in home design come and go all the time. And for the longest time, I can't tell you how many farmhouse style houses we built for people. Everybody wanted that farmhouse style, black and white farmhouse. That actually drove my wife um, to the end right there where she said, you know what, I think I'm going to give up the interior decorating. I'm tired of doing black and white farmhouse for everyone. And so we transitioned her out of that. She still runs our office, but we brought in an interior decorator to take that off of her plate. But that's been a very popular style. We're seeing a lot more contemporary, a lot more modern right now, and that was that first house that you showed,
Hmm.
the most recent one we built. Yeah, that right there. We're seeing a lot more of this style right now,
mhm,
where
Yeah.
people want this more contemporary look. It is very sharp. I really enjoyed. It was a pleasure to really build this house and walk the people through it. It was almost a year process. I mean, it's a very large house, so it takes
Hmm.
you a while, but man, just the style of it is really neat for this day and age.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
pretty incredible. As a custom builder, though, I love your website. It shows all the different things that you can do, right? Like that, like it says
Well,
something.
yeah, and we're not going to show every house that we build on here. We
Right.
just want to show different styles. This particular house that you're showing, this was another niche that house has a built-in mother-in-law apartment.
Mm,
So this is
Mm,
called a multi-generational um, floor plan. So it has a main level house, a main part of the house, and then it has a 900 square foot apartment, which some of the pictures may end up showing it. That's the main part of the house right there, the main area and the main kitchen. But then it goes into the back mother-in-law apartment that has its own kitchen, its own master. It's all interconnected, but they have the separate living quarters. This is the laundry room. This is the combined space. So you come in from
mm,
the garage, you come into this one big massive mudroom laundry room, and then you can go from there into the main area of the house, or you can go into the mother-in-law area. Big pantry. That's all part of the garage part of it. I think if you keep going, you'll get into the mother-in-law side. So that's the mother-in-law apartment right there. So there's the other kitchen, a nice living area, and then it has its own master suite as well. That is another niche that we found that a lot of people um, wanted. They're trying to combine multiple families under one roof, maybe for
mhm.
budget or just for that time period in life. We're all getting to the age where we're starting to take care of our parents. This
yeah,
gives us the ability, and yet gives them their freedom still. They're still detached,
yeah,
but it puts you all under one roof.
love
Yeah,
it. It seems like a really great
assisted
book.
livings are pretty popular these days, but man, they are not cheap. So to have
Mhm.
something like this where you're living together but not on top of each other is a great
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, yeah, we're seeing that a lot. This also has worked for people that kind of have the opposite, where they have a kid at home that can't afford to get on their own. This works for them too. It gives them an opportunity to let them stay in there for a few years, and then they end up turning it into an Airbnb or something on the side.
There you
That's
go.
that's interesting, right? Like getting into future market here in the valley, and because of the prices and stuff like that. This I love the way that term multi generational doesn't necessarily mean right. Doesn't necessarily mean taking care of a mother or father or parents, but it could be the other
No,
side because it's hard for these
yeah.
kids these days in the valley with where things have gone. So
Well, we're seeing a lot of business open up where you got tiny homes, you have ADUs. A lot of local jurisdictions around Idaho are adopting new codes and new policies to be able to allow for ADUs and stuff to be built on people's property because I mean, face it, it's an affordability issue. We've
yeah,
got to be able to still house people, and if you can give them the ability to put an ADU in their backyard so that their in-law can come stay close to them, or their kid can have a place to stay while they're trying to raise money to get out on their own, whatever.
yeah,
We're seeing a popularity shift with
yeah.
with that. I'm glad to see local jurisdictions listening to the public and allowing those things to happen.
So I don't want to get off Jared's kind of off
You're
track
fine.
on our plan here, our outline. But you bringing that up for somebody that's been in the industry as long as you have, John, I'm curious because I think a lot of things that we do have nothing to do with helping the affordability issue. Like you being involved in your industry as long as you have here, like what's something big that we could do? Like what do you think we can do to help that affordability here?
For me, my target market is not the affordable home
Right,
buyer, right? I don't ever cater to like first time home buyers,
right,
but because of my knowledge in the industry, I serve the industry in different ways. So right now, I am through the governor's office. I am on the state building code board. So I serve on that building code board, and what we do is we bring ideas to the state legislature on things that can help the affordability in Idaho for homeowners and yet still maintain continuity of quality of construction. So, building codes are always going to change. That's just a nature of our business. Building codes are always going to be updated and change. What are some of those changes that we should be looking at, and what are some of the things that we can help implement for the citizens of Idaho that help maintain the quality and yet not sacrifice affordability?
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, yeah, that doesn't really affect my target market per se of home buyer. It still affects my industry. And so that's how I try to take my knowledge and serve my industry in utilizing my skills and my ability to take that knowledge and apply it at a local level, a very practical level. I do a lot of meetings with local jurisdictions and talk to them about issues facing development, affordability issues. People don't realize that if you look at a national statistic, almost 25% of the overall cost of building a house has to do with government regulation. That
25%.
regulation has to do with, what are they requiring developers to put in the ground at the beginning? What are the building permit fees, impact fees? It goes on and on. People don't understand 25% of the overall cost is dictated by regulations. And so if we're not involved as a custom home builder and as a realtor, people in our industry, if we're not involved in those local discussions, then it's just going to keep getting worse. And so I believe that part of me serving my industry is making sure that I'm taking the knowledge that I've learned and I'm helping apply that to our local governments so that we can maybe make policy decisions that allow those first time homeowners to get into the market so they can experience being a first time homeowner, and then eventually they're able to upgrade to their next house, and then eventually they will be my target buyer, someday.
Right.
You can't make money in real estate unless you get into real estate. That's what I tell people all the time. People ask me, what's your one piece of advice to investing in real estate? Get into it. You're not going to make money in real estate unless you get into it. So we need to be cognizant. We need to be sensitive of those affordability issues so that our first time homeowners still have the ability for that American dream.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Man, it makes me happy. I had a feeling you're probably involved in some, in some place, but it makes me happy that because there's just not a lot of guys that have been around as long as you at this point, right? Like there's a lot of,
Well, and part of that was that time period that you and I talked about. That 5-year period took out all of my mentors, all
Yeah.
of them. I mean, all of the guys that were in it as long as I'm in it now, back then, they're done.
Yeah.
They walked away. They either retired, they closed up shop. Some of them went into other businesses. They just couldn't do it anymore. And so I want to be there for the next generation of builder. That's why I try to mentor other builders. I try to influence some of these younger guys coming up and encourage them and try to help educate those guys. It's definitely a different market than when I was in it, but I lost all of my mentors back then. I could have used a lot of that knowledge back then. And so now I take it serious to make sure to pass that down to the next generation.
I love that. Love that.
So let's talk about some areas. It's pretty broad, I would imagine, at this point, John, as far as if people are looking to come into the area. Can you give us an idea of where they could be working with you to look for opportunities to build?
Well, so where I'm at in the year 2026, I have my own subdivisions. I develop land, and so I have subdivisions that start with 1 acre lots and go all the way up to 5 acre lots. So we do custom building for people that have their own land, or maybe they bought a piece of land in another subdivision. They're looking for a builder. We do those one-offs, but most of my building is in my own subdivisions for sure. So I was telling you Lone Star Ranch, which is out by Lake Lowell in West Nampa, it's Canyon County's premier subdivision. Upper end homes in there, very classy executive style homes. That's in it's on Lone Star Road, between Lake and Indiana, on in Canyon County. So we have that. We also have Hawkview Estates, 2 acre lots, more country living, but it's located in a heavily growing area, right halfway between Star and Middleton, in the
Mhm.
foothills. So it sets up in beautiful country. Um,
Mhm.
we have that one. And then I'm actually my first venture into Jim County. We are just now recording 5 acre lots in Jim County, just north of Emmett, and we're going to be selling those. And we're kind of marketing those to the equestrian community.
Mhm.
5 acre lot is for people with horses, or they want that extra space, and so we're getting ready to open that up right now. Yeah, right in there. If you go down to Lake Lowell, you can kind of zoom into where Lone Star Ranch is. Yeah, right in that area. Um, you're heading right toward it. If you keep zooming in, you're going to be right at it. It's in that pocket right up there. Yep, right in that area is where Lone Star Ranch is, which is a really targeted growth area for both Nampa and Caldwell. They've set aside that area out there as their estate lot, area for the comp plan for Canyon County. So they want more houses with a little bit of elbow room, larger lots, and that's why I started my subdivision out there right in the middle of it, and it fits that area really well. More estate, country living out there, but you have city services. That's really
I,
nice.
I sure wish a lot more of the municipalities would push that. We don't have enough. Like we have a lot of high density throughout the entire Treasure Valley now, and it's nice to see, some of those larger
Well,
lots coming into play.
yeah, again, this is an active part of that discussion. So what my goal is to try to hold those municipalities to their original comprehensive plan. So they've taken that area and they said they want that area to be low density. We are working directly with both Nampa and Caldwell right now to tell their city leaders, you need to honor this comp plan.
Mhm.
That's the county's comp plan, but the city can come in and kind of modify it to their needs. So, but we're trying to tell them that area needs to stay from the original comp plan, because you're right, Chase. There are a lot of national builders coming in, and they are buying up land like crazy, and they're bringing them this high density stuff, which there's a need for. That's
Yeah.
going to help our first time home buyers, and I get it. There's a need for that, but I think the cities would do themselves a disservice if they just cater to that. They can't just cater to that. They have to have a good balance, because to be honest with you, the higher end homes, that's building their tax base.
Right.
They where we do need affordable homes. We need that. We need people to be able to purchase those homes. If you look at the amount of taxes though that those homes bring in, not nearly as much as what it costs them in tax service. And
Right.
so we need a good balance of that. We need to keep our custom home builders, with lots and with the ability to keep these nicer homes coming in, because that is what's going to help really lower our tax rate for the taxpayers within those jurisdictions. We need these nicer homes to help level that off.
Yeah. It the environment you live in, right? Like the community is, they're living, breathing things, right? And you need that. You can't just have one form of of housing, one form of jobs
Correct.
offered. Like you have to have a good mix so that everything's nice and healthy, and you have some
Ecosystem.
open space, and you live in a good community, right? Like that's what we shoot for, is just
So
variety.
I serve my industry by being involved in the Building Contractors Association. So we have a state Idaho Building Contractors Association, and then you have the local jurisdictions. So Ada County has a BCA, and then Canyon County has a BCA. And
Yep.
so I through that involvement, we stay in touch very closely with local jurisdictions. And for Canyon County, it would be Nampa and Caldwell. And we try to encourage them to bring in business development. You need to have the balance between industrial growth, commercial growth, and residential growth. Because as soon as you get that off balance, then your tax base gets way off. And
Yeah.
so we understand it. 28 years building in Canyon County, I know what the needs are for the residential builders, but there is always a balance to make sure that these cities are constantly looking for the retail growth, the
Hmm.
industrial growth, the commercial growth, and when that balances out with residential, then it's very healthy. When you let
Yeah.
one get above the other, then you start having an unhealthy tax situation, and that's when the arguments start coming in, and that's when the politicizing of all the issues starts getting heated up. But people don't realize that there needs to be a continuity, a good balance to the whole
Hmm.
thing. So part of our, and really part of my passion, is to meet with these cities and constantly talk about that balance and make sure to serve on their committees that analyze growth, that analyze where revenue comes from, talk with the business development leaders with the cities so that they understand that, hey, maybe next year you can target more retail growth, and where can we push that at to really help you balance that part out. That's all part of the holistic approach to
Yeah.
our whole market, right?
Yeah. 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 I love that. I love that. I'm a member of the BCA here too. Try to stay involved as much as possible. It's yeah, yeah. There's a lot of money involved, right? And so you have to have clear level heads, right, helping to make advise and make those decisions to make sure that we can keep our community,
Sure.
vibrant and just great places to live, right?
And it's not just the BCA. That's just one
Right.
association that deals with it. You have realtor groups.
Hmm.
It takes us all. It takes us
Yeah.
all. But when I look at our industry, being the real estate in general industry, we have to be united in teaching and keeping that balance within our communities. Because otherwise, it just gets out of whack, and then you know, then you don't have the home affordability, and then you
Hmm.
don't have businesses wanting to come to our area to hire people, and it's an overall global look at our community for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to affect everybody for generations to come, right? So it's important. It's important to stay on
Absolutely.
top of it.
Yeah.
The competition in the area, John, is there quite a few custom builders these days to your degree, or
There
yeah?
is. Yeah,
Okay.
there's quite a few custom builders. I feel like me being in this for 28 years gives me a little bit different of a leg up, where I have a lot of word of mouth stuff happen out there. But I don't consider myself the leading custom home builder. There's a lot of guys out there that do great jobs.
Mhm.
I can say I would hate to be one of the younger builders coming in this market now. The market's really changed in 28 years. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, with having all these national builders now coming in, you mentioned it, Chase, they're taking up lots of land. Unfortunately, that's going to hurt some of the custom home builders. They're going to have a harder and harder time finding lots to be able to build on
Mhm.
because, guys can pay an extraordinary amount for a piece of dirt because they're going to amortize that off over 1,000 homes. We can't pay the same amount for dirt that some of these national guys can and keep our prices competitive. It just something's got to give. And I'm glad that I can help influence and encourage these younger generation builders coming in behind me. But boy, I'm glad I'm not one of them coming in this market now. They're going to see a lot of challenges in this next decade. Um, and I have a feeling you're going to see probably a good handful of builders go away because they're just not going to be able to keep up.
That's
Yeah,
kind of where I
it's
was going with that is we have a lot of builders that are shifting. I mean, we've got builders now that it's specs only. You don't have a say in colors,
Mhm.
countertops. I mean, you bought what was built and you'll like it. We've got some semi that, claim to kind of be flexible in what they do, but they're definitely not custom. And like you said, as the nationals continue to come in, I don't know how a true custom builder competes, because you have to secure the dirt, you have to improve the dirt, you have to, like you said, you have
Yeah.
much fewer lots to amortize it over. And anyway, I was just kind of curious on your thoughts of the future of custom home building in the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be a niche for the true custom guys, to deliver a high end product. I
Yeah.
think what we've seen though is a lot of the guys who used to be semi custom or just spec builders, just due to the nature of the market, they have had to move up and try to compete with the custom home builders. So it appears as though there's a lot of custom home builders out there, but it's mostly the guys that have just been pushed out of the spec market,
Yeah.
because you do have some of the local spec builders that have secured enough dirt where they're kind of competing with these national builders, where you kind of already spoke to that, Jerod. They spec build only, you get what you get, and that's what you get there because they're competing with the national model. And
Right.
so the semi guys who used to have that market, now they have tried to say, well, I've got to start doing something unique, and I've got to offer more for people. So they've moved up into more of the custom market, and it's kind of flooded one area of the market, and I just don't see that there's that much of a piece of the pie to go around anymore.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask, because I feel like the same thing, right? These, you don't have that natural progression like where you started out, the price of home that you started out with, right? The guys today can't do that, right? Because they can't compete, right, with the nationals, and so
Yeah.
they're pushed into higher levels of home building than you would be comfortable with starting out at, right?
I've seen guys starting out that right now they're starting out and they're automatically in the 850 to $1 million market. And that's for a semi-custom home builder to get started.
Right.
I mean, even back in the heyday, I would have died to be able to build 10 of those houses a year.
Right.
Wouldn't have even considered that that would have been an opportunity for me, back then. But now that's where they have to compete. And
Mm-hmm.
that part that's really tough to swallow is you're starting to see all of these builders that have to compete in that upper market. And I just don't see that we have enough buyers coming into the market to keep all of those builders busy, or all
Right.
those builders afloat.
Because
But it's also
because
the nature. I mean, it's not really any fault of theirs. It's a global fault of the market, where the costs of everything have gotten to the point where our starter homes, the first time homeowners, what are they paying? 400 and some $1,000 for a house,
yeah,
a
that's about
starter home.
starting.
If I back in 19, even in the year 2000, if I had a $450,000 house, that to me was upper end back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now that's considered starter. Oh, it pains me to see that these builders have to start there now, and they have to compete against that.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
the, the nationals are trying to compete in that, in some of the nationals are trying to compete in that range as well too, right? So they're pushing those boundaries as well,
No
trying to eat
question.
up that. And yeah, I mean, the amount that some of these builders have to leverage themselves just to get started in the industry because of where they have to, to start out building, it's crazy. That way different.
I see some national builders that have houses that are almost approaching a million now, right here in the valley. That just blows me away.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
Different times. I did put one other item on here that I'd like to just cover briefly, and that is amenities, and kind of feel for your subdivision. You said you're focusing on equestrian in your.
For the Jim County, we have some 5 acre lots that we're getting ready to open up in Jim County. That one
Mhm.
we're kind of marketing to the equestrian community because of location. Jim County is a very much a country style community, still a small community, and they have a very rapidly growing equestrian community up there. And so, with 5 acres, you can get multiple animals, in a pasture, have a pasture area for multiple animals. So that's what we're kind of catering to with that subdivision. Our other ones, like a Lone Star Ranch, that's more like executive style living. So 1 acre just gets you a nice big footprint of a house. Someone who wants a double RV garage. A lot still more of our empty nesters, the baby boomer generation still wants those type of houses. They want a house that is not, they don't call it downsizing anymore. We call it
Mm-hmm.
right sizing, because a lot of these guys, they're actually growing in size of their house, but they want it right size. They want it to where their kids can come and stay for a week at a time and have their grandkids there. Every bedroom has its own bathroom. They want guest space. So even though they're still asking for 3,500, sorry, to 4,000 square foot houses, it's more just right sizing for their lifestyle now.
Right.
Do you have in your Gem County one? Do you have an idea of where those price ranges will end up?
Yes, we've already started releasing our price points. They're going to be from about 380,000 up to 460,000 roughly, for these 5 acre lots.
Gotcha. It's going to be a
If
nice
somebody
community.
was going to estimate approximate total price of the home, John, can you still roughly map a times X number to the lot price to get a ballpark? Is that you're
Uh,
chuckling? Is that a thing anymore?
well, people want to talk formulas all the time when you talk custom building. People always ask, well, what do you charge per square foot? I like to jokingly say, do you go to a car salesman and ask them what their price per pound is for a car? Every car still has four wheels, but there's a difference if you buy a Yugo or if you buy a Mercedes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you really you can't equate price per foot in a house, because everyone's going to want something very unique and different. Um, and to your question, Jerod, we used to be able to take the lot price and say, okay, well, it's usually a 4 to 5 times what your overall budget's going to be. That's not necessarily the case anymore, because like these 5 acre lots, you may have someone that only wants to come out there and build a 2,000 square foot house. They just need to have the 5 acres for their horses and stuff. So all of a sudden you're a 3x or a 2x,
Mm-hmm.
on that number. So it doesn't equate like that anymore. Like we used to be able to use some general guidelines. I think the question of, the per square foot cost, that's that has made me chuckle my entire career, because you can't quantify a house in a how much per square foot. You just can't
Yeah.
do it unless you're
That's
unless you're looking at maybe the national builders, and you're wanting to compare two houses within the same price point range. Then you can probably do it. Looking at apples to apples. But when you're talking custom home building, it's all over the board.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Hey, as an appraiser, it's that's the worst term that ever comes up, right? Price per square
Oh
foot.
yeah,
That doesn't work that way.
yeah.
And
And
Jared
and
and I
I
talk
feel the
about it all
same
the
way
time.
when Yeah, I feel the same way when people initially call me just to, hey, I'm going to interview custom home builders. What's your price per foot? Well, if that's your first question, I'm probably not going to be your guy, you know,
Right.
especially if you're getting a straight answer out of the other ones that you've already asked this to.
And it's not fair. Like Jared and I talk about it all the time. It's not fair either, because so when they decide to build a house, it's usually a financial decision, right? One side of the brain. The minute they start building, and especially in the custom realm, the minute they start building, emotion gets involved, and they go all over the place, right? Oh no,
Yeah,
I gotta have this. I gotta have
you're
that.
right. You're 100% right. Yeah, we see it all the time. The budget drives the conversation until the contract is signed. And then after that, then it is completely up to the homeowner, and they do it all the time. Oh, well, but I really want to upgrade this. Okay, well, we'll add it in. No sweat, but here's what it's going to cost, to do that.
Hmm.
That's definitely inevitable.
Well, hey, gentlemen, I'm also keeping a little bit of track of time here, noticing we're coming up on the hour here. John, was there anything else you wanted to make sure we kind of covered today that our audience listeners would want to know?
I not necessarily don't think so. It's been great just having a conversation with you guys, and we really didn't have a, a script or anything to go off of. I just appreciate having the conversation and reminiscing. For me, it's kind of fun
Yeah.
to reminisce back for as many years, Jerod, as you and I have known each other, but also just for the 28 years that I'm getting ready to celebrate here. It's kind of fun looking back and seeing where we've come from to what we can offer now. We do a very good job. I do say that me and my team, we do a very good job at making a house more personable. I really do appreciate growing a relationship with a client while we're building a house. It's very rare that I don't have a continued relationship with a client after they move into their house. That's very rare because we like to think we're a family, and we're a family of builders, and we want to treat your build like it's part of our family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that says a lot if you're staying in touch with them. You've developed a friendship, and they speak highly of you and refer you a business. That's what Chase and I aspire to, is repeat and referral business. Yes, we make an income at what we do, but mostly it's emotional currency and just kind of that hug
Mm,
at the closing table and seeing the people that we've served it just turn a new chapter in this thing we call the life, the book of life. Uh,
yeah.
Mhm.
Chase always gets a smile on his face when we talk about this. So we're all on the same page there, and we all have a kind of what you said earlier, John, a ton of character in the virtual room here, based upon our experience through the 0809 meltdown and COVID
Mhm.
and kind of everything in between. So we'll grab a coffee sometime and chat a little bit about that in more detail, but not without boring
More
the
reminiscing, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it also, I mean, I would be remiss not to say it's also about the professionals that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We network a lot with real estate agents that know how to walk people through a custom build. They know they can trust me to bring their clients to me. They know how they're going to be treated, and we respect that relationship with the agent as well. To where we make sure we take care of our agents. I want agents selling my product. I want them to trust me with their clients. And so we go above and beyond to make sure we take care of our real estate agents as well. So I want to make sure to point that out, because that is a relationship that I've made sure to protect my entire career, is that agent relationship, because they're the ones ultimately that are selling our product and bringing us more clients out there. And so we try to make sure to protect that at all costs.
Well, that means a ton to us as agents, that's for sure, because a lot of the builders, they're kind of appreciate us when they need us and they hate us when they don't. Or not really hate us, but they kind of, they do all kinds of strange things at different times of the economy. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, please come back. We love you. We miss you. Please help us. And, sell some of our product. And then all of a sudden, they start pulling their, sales team inside in house, and they kind of distant. Anyway, it's highly appreciated that you have that approach and that relationship with your agents. That means a lot.
Well, I think it goes back to making sure that, my name is the number one thing that I'm building on in the valley. And it was a longevity. I'm going to be in this valley my entire life. So why would I try to do something to mess that up? And so we want to make sure that we're catering to the people that we need to cater to.
Yeah, love it. All right. Well, we are definitely hitting that hour mark. John, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you? Obviously, we'd love for you to reach out to us and, open conversation. But if they wanted to reach you directly, is it the website and phone number?
Yeah,
Or?
they right through. We get a lot of contacts through our website, social media platforms, of course, Instagram, Facebook, and we get a lot of contacts with that. But a lot of that takes you right back to the website.
Mhm.
So yeah, feel free to reach out, and any questions or something that people may have. I'm more than happy to share knowledge along the way. We've made it a habit of 28 years of building communities, not just building houses. We're building communities, and that starts with the one-on-one interaction with our buyers. So any way you can get a hold of me, we'd love to have the conversation.
Excellent. Well, as always, Chase, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight. And John, we appreciate you coming on this episode and sharing a little bit about your backstory and your 28 years in the business in the Treasure Valley. We certainly appreciate it all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take care.
And really
Everybody have a
enjoyed the
blessed one.
conversation, John. Thanks for coming on.
Take care, everybody. Have a blessed one.